Novice 5 and 6, debate, and essentially like good job to everyone who has debated and worked really hard to get here. And so it's really admirable that you guys have like worked on your plans both in and out of session to essentially get to this point. So good job, all of you. All right, okay. So I will screen share a timer really quickly. And then we will start the debate immediately after that. Okay, give me quiet. 5 minute timer. Oops. Okay. So whoever is proposition 1, you're able to start. Just tell me when to start, and then I will start the timer immediately.
You can start now. My name is Jessica Tall, and I'm the first speaker for proposition on the topic, the USFG should raise the federal minimum wage. The definition is, a minimum wage is the lowest wage per hour that a worker may be paid, as mandated by federal law. The standard is, the side that does better for the economy wins. My first contention is, if you raise minimum wage, it would decrease poverty, because my reason is, a person working full-time at the federal minimum wage of $7.25 per hour earns $15,080 in a year, which is 20% higher than the 2015 federal poverty level of $12,331 for a one-person household under 65 years of age, but 8% below the 2015 federal poverty level of $16,337 for a single-parent family with a child under 18 years of age. My evidences for this are, according to a 2014 Congressional Budget Office report, increasing the minimum wage to $9 would lift 300,000 people out of poverty, and an increase to $10.10 would lift 900,000 people out of poverty. Another study by the University of Massachusetts in 2013 estimated that increasing the minimum wage to $10.10 is projected to reduce the number of non-elderly living in poverty by around 4.6 million, or by 6.8 million when longer-term effects are accounted for. The sources for these evidences are cbo.gov and rndub.com. The impact for this is, if we increase the minimum wage, then the rate of people in poverty would also decrease. If the amount of people that are in poverty decreases, then there will be more people that are financially stable and can live in good living conditions. This will give them well-being of the mind and push them to do more hard work. So they will start applying for more jobs, which would provide more workers for companies, and that would be good for the economy, because all the companies would be getting their job done quickly with many minds working together. The second contention is, people can't afford housing. The reason for this is, the current minimum wage is not high enough to allow people to afford housing. The evidence for this is, according to a 2015 report from the National Low-Income Housing Coalition, a worker must earn at least $15.50 an hour, over twice the federal minimum wage, to be able to afford to rent a modest one-bedroom apartment, and $19.35 for a two-bedroom unit, which is more than 2.5 times the minimum wage. Another piece of evidence is, a report stated, in no state can an individual working a typical 40-hour work week at the federal minimum wage afford a one- or two-bedroom apartment for his or her family. The source for this is Washington Post. The impact is, if people can't afford housing, then their kids are going to live in bad living conditions. If they live in bad living conditions, then they might get bullied at school, which would result in them not wanting to go to school, and that would lead them to not getting a good education. If they don't get a good education, then they wouldn't be getting a good job, and we would be losing amazing young politicians, entrepreneurs, businessmen, and much more. I'm done.
All right. Okay. Amazing. That's all right. So we can move on to the first opposition speaker now. Tell me whenever you're ready.
Okay, my time starts now. My name is Ma Zaceria, and I am the first opposition speaker for the resolution the U.S. federal government should increase the minimum wage. I will first state my standards, definitions, refutes, and then contentions. The standard of this debate is decide who does the most amount of good for the most amount of people. Minimum wage means the lowest income possible that the law allows. The economy means the production and consumption of products. Economic recession means when the economy declines. Now I will be moving on to my contentions. Now I will be moving on to my refutes. My respected opponent has said that increasing the minimum wage will reduce poverty. But if we increase the minimum wage, it can increase the cost of other goods. So increasing the minimum wage does no good and has no purpose, which I will explain more in my later contentions. My respected opponent has also said that increasing the minimum wage will help the economy. Yes, it helps the economy, but it can also end up in economic recession, which I will also explain in my later contentions. My first contention is that increasing the minimum wage will increase the cost of other things. Because business owners have to get more money to afford to give their employees their wages, they have to increase the cost of other things so they will be able to afford it. So if people want more money to afford their necessities, increasing the minimum wage does nothing. Citizens are still not going to be able to afford their necessities. Ask yourself, is increasing the minimum wage really going to reduce poverty? For example, in February 1967, non-farmer workers received $1 per hour, and then the market regulated itself so that eggs costed 49 cents. Today, $1 per hour as the minimum wage is preposterous, and goods cost much more than they did before. So since American citizens are getting more money now, products cost much more today than they did years ago. This proves that if the U.S. federal government is going to increase the minimum wage, it has no purpose, because other products' costs are also going to increase. In addition, according to thebalance.com, in 1938, the Fair Labor Standards Act organized the first American minimum wage. Franklin Roosevelt passed the act for an economic policy, the New Deal, whose purpose was to support themselves during the Great Depression. And the Great Depression destroyed the economy because of less productivity. The Great Depression caused employees' wages to decrease a large amount. So Roosevelt organized a minimum wage to be 25 cents per hour, which is currently equivalent to $4.36 per hour. This proves that when the economy was in danger, the president and the federal government stepped up. Since this caused an economic recession, if we increase the minimum wage, it will again cause a decline in the economy, which can cause lots of trouble. Yes, some may say that people are living in poverty and can't afford certain things. But if we increase the minimum wage for them, goods costs will also increase. And this is not the problem for the Great Depression. Only 11.8% of people are living in poverty today in America. But during the Great Depression, over 12 million people became unoccupied every single day. Now I will be moving on to my impacts. Raising the minimum wage is pointless. Everything is also going to be increased. So if business owners have to raise the minimum wage, they would hire less workers, which would increase unemployment, and people would have less money so they can't support themselves and their family, which creates an overall worsened quality of life. Now I will be moving on to my second contention, which is it hurts small businesses. Small businesses who don't make a lot of money can't afford to increase the minimum wage for their employees. So the only way to solve that would be to fire workers or hire less workers. meaning people will spend less on their wants and more on their needs. Spending less would mean economic recession or a decline in the economy. This economic recession can result in lower wages and incomes. This concludes that even if the U.S. federal government increases the minimum wage, there are still going to be people who have certain different incomes. Now we'll be moving on to my impacts. Small businesses who don't make a lot of money means that owners can't afford to give more money to their employees, which means they would have to fire employees. So less people are working and less productivity, which creates less economic growth. Small businesses make up a large percentage of the economy, meaning less people in the smaller businesses and fewer innovative ideas, which can help make an efficient society, which is crucial. Thank you.
All right, okay, thanks for that. Let me reset the timer, and then we'll go on to Proposition 2. So Proposition 2, whenever you're ready, I'll just start the timer. Opposition 2, but...
Yeah, okay, I'm ready. So, hi, my name is Avneeta and I'm the Proposition 2 speaker. First, I'll be refuting one of the Opposition First speaker's points, then I'll be moving on to my two contentions. My refute to the Opposition First speaker's second contention is that she said that if we increase the minimum wage, the market prices will increase. Even though not all the prices will increase, only some prices will increase, and even if some of them do, they won't increase by that much. And people who were in poverty before will now be able to buy things that they couldn't before. So now I'll be moving on to my contentions. My first contention is that if we increase the minimum wage, it would also decrease high school dropouts. My reasoning is a 2014 study found that raising the California minimum wage to $13 an hour would increase the incomes of 7.5 million families. My evidence is the study also found that recent experimental studies show that increasing income can improve school performance. Increasing the minimum wage would allow teens to work fewer hours for the same amount of pay, which is giving them more time to study and is reducing the likelihood that they would drop out of high school. So my source is curry.virginia.edu, and my impact is if we increase the minimum wage, fewer people would live in poverty. Teens who live in poverty are twice as likely to miss 3 or more days of school per month compared to those who do not. Thus, raising the minimum wage and lifting families out of poverty would mean children would miss fewer school days. This would let them understand every concept nicely and let them get a good job after college. My next contention says that if we increase the minimum wage, then it would also reduce crime. My reasoning is, according to a 2016 study done by the Executive Office of the President's Council of Economic Advisors, higher wages for low-income individuals reduce crime by providing sustainable employment. Raising the minimum wage to $12 by 2020 would result in 3 to 5% crime decrease, which is 250,000 to 540,000 crimes, and in the society's benefit of $8 to $17 billion. My evidence is researchers who study crime rates and the minimum wage in New York City over a 25-year period found that increases in the minimum wage are found to significantly reduce robberies, murders, crimes, and suicides. Another one of my evidences say that the same study found that a 2000 study found that the living wage led to the most modest reduction in crime. My source is people.virginia.edu and bc.edu. My impact is if the rate of murder, robberies, suicides, crimes, or any type of crime reduces in USA, then USA would start being even better country, and more people would start moving to USA. This would bring the population up, and people would start getting different types of jobs. This will help bring the wealth of America up, and this will help the economy. Thank you, and I strongly urge a ballot for the proposition side.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now we're moving on to opposition 2. Just tell me when you're ready.
My time starts now. My name is Chen, and I am the second opposition speaker for the resolution. The U.S. federal government should increase the minimum wage. I'm starting with refutes, assertions, and ending with impacts. With that, my time starts now. So, Proposition 2 had stated how there would be fewer crimes, but I don't agree with that, as market prices will also be increased, and which doesn't make any difference. The same thing can be applied to when she had said that only some things may increase. Business owners still need to make money, so they'll naturally have to increase to make the money to pay their workers. And also people would work more, which means there will be less people offering to do more tiring jobs, like being a police, which can also increase the amount of robbers or murders, etc. Now I'm going to start with my assertions. Unfair different incomes. Increasing the minimum wage wouldn't increase the employer's wage, which causes an unfair different income, as employers won't be affected by minimum wage. Business owners may have to hire fewer employees, so employees would have to find some other job to have. This pressures the unemployment system. More unemployment can cause less workers and therefore less productivity. Like my teammate had said, the Great Depression caused so much unemployment and less productivity, which had hurt the economy. It led to an economic recession, meaning that the economy doesn't get any money, and GDP, or gross domestic product, decreases. GDP essentially represents how good the economy is or how much money it's earning. A worsened economy can cause unemployment, which again causes less productivity. So there's less manufacturing and fewer goods or products. And goods and products allow a country to make money. The U.S. trades goods and products to other countries to get more money. We normally get more money than other countries, meaning if there are fewer goods and products, corporations can't get as much money. If corporations can't get as much money, employers can give their employees as much money. This proves that even if we allow the increment of the minimum wage, there are still going to be people who have even less money than they have before. If people have less money, then they can't take care of themselves as much. If employers can't give their employees as much money, their employees will suffer. Suffering is caused by the absence of the necessities, which is required for survival. If you don't meet survival requirements, it can lead to diseases, and even worse, death, meaning an overall worsened quality of life. And if people get different amounts of money, some get more and some get less, this is income inequality, where lots of wealthy individuals are scattered, and this is a small percentage of the population. Income inequality can lead to a judgmental society. A judgmental society can create a negative atmosphere where people tend to be uncomfortable or shy. When people are uncomfortable or shy, they tend to hold back. Being uncomfortable can make you leave out on something, or it can make you afraid to ask questions. Questions help us grow. This can impact your future, so it again can lead to an overall worsened quality of life. Increasing the minimum wage causes business owners to pay certain employees less and pay more to other employees, which causes income inequality, which causes a judgmental society. And a negative area causes sadness, trauma, which can lead to suicide again. And this heavily impacts on people and may make people uncomfortable, which misses out on many important things that they should know for their own benefit, which causes an overall worsened quality of life. Thank you, and I strongly urge a ballot for the opposition side.
All right, okay, thank you. Now can we move on to opposition 3? Oh, crap.
Yeah.
Tell me whenever you're ready, and I'll start.
Okay. I'll first do my introduction, then you can start the time. My name is Ma Zaceria, and I'm the third opposition speaker for this debate. I will first summarize the speeches, then move on to my impacts, and end with two-word analysis. My time starts now. Increasing the minimum wage will increase the cost of other things and will hurt small businesses, like I said before. My teammate has said that income inequality can be caused if we increase the minimum wage. My respected opponent has said that increasing the minimum wage will reduce poverty. But really, if we increase the minimum wage, it can increase the cost of other things. So increasing the minimum wage does no good and has no purpose, which I will explain more. It does no good and has no purpose. My respected opponent has also said that increasing the minimum wage will help the economy. It can also help the economy, but it can also end up in economic recession. My respected opponent has also said that 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 if we don't increase the minimum wage, there will be a higher crime rate, but we will still have crimes either way if we increase the minimum wage and if we don't increase the minimum wage. Now I will be moving on to my impacts. Increasing the minimum wage can cause business owners to pay a disparity of wages, which then leads to income inequality, and then a judgmental society, which can create a negative atmosphere and may make people very uncomfortable, which they tend to hold back and miss out on many important things that might be very important to know of, which is an overall worsened quality of life. Raising the minimum wage is pointless because everything is also going to be increased. So if business owners have to raise the minimum wage, which would increase unemployment, like I explained before, people would have less money and they wouldn't be able to take care of their family and themselves and their family, which creates a worsened quality of life. Again, small businesses who don't make as much money as other businesses means that owners can't afford to give more money to their employees. So there would have to be less employees, which means less workers and less productivity, which decreases economic growth. Now I will be moving on to my two-word analysis. In our world, we don't increase the minimum wage, so business owners aren't forced to fire workers or hire less workers, which means we have more employment in America. So people are more likely to spend. It is more likely for people to spend more, which is very good for the economy. Since people are employed, they can support themselves and their loved ones, which creates an overall better quality of life. Before, workers got much lower wage and products, and goods were very affordable. But now workers get more wage and merchandise are more expensive, meaning that workers would get the same pay and merchandise because it is the same cost. So if the minimum wage was increased, then merchandise costs would also increase. Meaning if the minimum wage would be increased, there is no difference. So poverty wouldn't be reduced if we increase the federal minimum wage, and it wouldn't be increased if we don't increase the federal minimum wage. In their world, they increase the minimum wage, which increases the cost of other goods and products because business owners are forced to make more money to afford the increment of the minimum wage. If goods and products costs are increased, people are still going to live in poverty because costs are going to be equivalent for what it was before because they get higher pay. So there's no difference if we're going to increase the minimum wage. If the U.S. federal government increases the minimum wage, it hurts small businesses because owners can't afford to give higher pay to their employees. So they will hire less workers or they'll fire workers so they can afford to give them their money. Fired workers can lead to lots of unemployment, which makes them more likely to spend less money, which is really bad for the economy because it won't get enough money and workers get less wage or less income, and they can't support themselves and their family, which creates an overall worsened quality of life. We have proved with statistics and quotes that the opposition side should win. And like I said before, The side who wins is the side which benefits the most out of the two sides. We had reliable sources and good information. Thank you, Judge, and I strongly urge you to vote for the opposition side.
All right, okay, thank you for that. And now I guess we're moving on to the final speech, which is Proposition 3.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Just tell me when to start and I'll start.
My time starts now. Hello, my name is Amala Tina Andrews, and I'm the third speaker for the proposition side of this debate. I am first going to counter-refute and refute a few of the opposition's contentions and refutes, and then I will give an overview of our case and do a two-world analysis. First, you said that increasing the minimum wage would increase the poverty rate. My counter-refute to that is if you don't do anything, then poverty is going to stay like how it is right now. How is that good? But if you increase the minimum wage, low-income workers or people that are in poverty will have a chance to work and accomplish something in life. They also said that the crime will be there even if they increase the minimum wage or don't. And I agree, but the rate of the minimum wage will be much, much lower if you increase it. Now I will refute two of their contentions. Their second contention was that it hurts small businesses. My refute to that is the managers would have enough money to give their employees because they would begin to charge more for their products. So, for example, if a pencil manufacturer paid his employees $200 and got $5 for each box, after the minimum wage is raised, he would pay his employees $230 and he would ask for $9 for each box. Another name for this concept is inflation, which you guys did not take into account. Your guys' third contention stated that third contention was that it's unfair different income. My refute is, you said that the employers and employees are getting an unfair income. The managers will get profit from the products that they sell, so there actually is no unfairness at all. The employees will pay his worker and benefit profit from selling his products. Now I'm going to state a few of our key points. Our contention stated that if we were to increase the federal minimum wage, then we would be able to lift a lot of people out of poverty. A person working full-time at the federal minimum wage, which is 20% higher than the 2015 federal poverty level of $12,331 for a one-person household under 65 years of age, but 8% below the 2015 federal poverty level of $16,337. For a single-parent family with a child under 18 years of age, according to a 2014 Congressional Budget Office report, increasing the minimum wage to $9 would lift 300,000 people out of poverty, and an increase to $10.10 would lift 900,000 people out of poverty. If we increase the minimum wage, then the rate of people in poverty will also decrease. If the amount of people that are in poverty decreases, then there will be more people that are financially stable and can live in good living conditions. This will give them well-being of mind and push them to do more hard work. They will not have to commit crime, which will decrease the crime level, and not commit suicide due to depression, which will be good for the economy. But instead, they could be having a very happy lifestyle. And this is all good for the economy and government. Now I will move on to my two-world analysis. In the proposition side, our world of the debate, we say that if we increase the minimum wage, we would be able to decrease poverty, have a minimum wage high enough for everyone to have a house, decrease the rate of high school dropouts, and reduce crime. This is all while the opposition side states that the complete opposite, which I don't see how is going to help America go to places. As you can see, we have debated this debate with strong evidence and impacting. Thank you, and I strongly urge a proposition ballot for this debate.
All right, okay. Thank you everyone for debating in this round. So for now, you'll probably have to give me around 5 minutes to 6 minutes to deliberate, and then after that, I will be able to give your feedback and your ballots. Is that all right? Okay, so I'd suggest you guys to stay at the computer and probably mute yourselves while I kind of deliberate and look through the flow. All right, okay, good job, everyone. That was a really good debate. Okay, everyone. Okay, I think I'm pretty much done with my decision. Sorry that took 7 minutes, which was longer than I was expecting. But anyways, I'll just give you a quick roadmap for what I'm going to do for my feedback. I will first go into like general feedback, what everyone needs to improve on with impacts and POIs and whatnot. And then I'm going to go on to the individual speaker feedback. And then I'm going to talk about your speaker points. And then finally, I'll reveal my decision. Okay, is that good for everyone? All right, yeah, I'll presume it is. Okay, so for general feedback, what I first want to focus on is the POIs. Like, I know you guys, I told you guys that I wanted more POIs, and then in this round I didn't actually see any POIs, which is pretty disappointing. But you have to realize that a lot of judges do value POIs a lot because they do show that you are like engaged instead of in the conversation and in the debate instead of like doodling on your flows right after your speech is done, which is something I do quite often. But you guys definitely need to be more engaged and like try to just show the judge that you're a lot more invested in the debate than you are. Okay, so that was kind of disappointing. So I took half a speaker point off for everybody because instead of one, but that's how it works. Okay, secondly, generally what I want to see more also is for you guys to corroborate your impact. So what I was seeing a lot of was that you guys were talking a lot of general impacts, a lot of impacts that were kind of generalized to everybody, but you guys didn't provide evidence for your impacts like almost at all. So one like problem with the ARES I format that we're using is that it doesn't show that also your impacts do need to be to have evidence and to be corroborated. Like I'll give an example from like either side. So for example, I believe one side said that income disparity leads to a negative atmosphere, which could lead to like trauma for a lot of people and suicide. While the other side said that having like bad living circumstances led to being bullied, which meant to a bad education, which meant to a bad job, which led to a bad economy. So like both of those could be technically true, but they would be a lot stronger if you actually added evidence for like, oh yeah, X amount of people in poverty are more likely to be depressed, or like they're more likely to commit suicide. Because obviously what I see like it, because currently this way of not corroborating or adding evidence to your impacts just takes away from your credibility a lot. Because when I look around and when I see like, oh yeah, like Fremont's like, you know, raise their minimum wage, right? I don't see everyone becoming like depressed or committing suicide or getting bullied because of their bad houses. Admittedly, this is Fremont, but like it stands that you can't make generalizations that like go to the entire United States. Like the entire United States will get like depressed or bullied, but you do need to add evidence, and that will definitely make your point stronger as well. So just try to keep that in mind for next time. Okay. So that was my general feedback. Now I'm going to move on to feedback for like your individual person. So first off, Jessica, which was proposition 1, I'm assuming. Okay. So first off, like speaker wise, like it was pretty good. Actually, all of you guys are really clear speakers, so like good job on that. But Jessica, you were a bit monotonous. You could have had like more facial expressions or like had more voice control or like spoke louder or softer in some areas. So try to do that and try to emphasize this. Another thing is I want to see a bit more reasoning from you and your plan in general, because right, like what I heard was essentially that when you said your points, you said your assertion, you said like maybe 1 or 2 sentences of reasoning, and then you hit me with this like entire stack of evidence, which isn't terrible, but like having more reasoning and having more links to your impacts and your point flows a little better could definitely be good. And also another thing that I noticed was your weighing mechanism for the entire proposition side was very weird. Your weighing mechanism was essentially about economy, and I don't think this is the best weighing mechanism to choose for your side, because you do need to like kind of think about what your points are, right? Your points were talking about decreasing dropout rates and reducing crime and among other things, and like having more people afford housing. You did impact all of those out to economy, but those are also things that are impacted out to lives and quality of life. And so economy doesn't cover the majority of your impacts. You should have gone like the opposition said to the quality of life weighing mechanism. Okay, so that could have been like stronger if you kind of more strategically thought about your weighing mechanism. But other than that, it was very clear and you had a good time and you had good points. So good on you for that. So now on to Lutfa, which is opposition 1. Okay, so now moving on to your point. So I noticed that you did say that, okay, so our weighing mechanism should be net benefits, which is the most number of most amount of good to the most amount of people. First off, when you are disagreeing with someone's weighing mechanism, you have to explain why a weighing mechanism is better and why it fits the topic a lot more. And that's just something that needs to be addressed. Secondly, okay, and also like you don't need to reiterate a lot of the definitions, because I think some of that was brought up and most of it is like pretty self-explanatory, because judges mostly know like what the economy is or what a minimum wage is. Okay, and then thirdly, for your evidence in particular, I would like to see a bit more empirics, and what empirics are just examples of minimum wage being implemented in the past and how that has affected people like currently. Because a lot of what I saw were just like historical evidences, and that's like not as strong as it could be if you did add more studies or more empirical evidence. So that could be improved on and try to find more stuff of that like nature, because that definitely helps. Okay, now to ABNU. Generally, I don't really have that much to say for you. You have to make sure to refute the weighing mechanism if you want your original weighing mechanism of economy to stand, right? Like you have to address that, because right now the weighing mechanism is most definitely net benefits, the number of good to the most number of people. So make sure to refute, and maybe like flow better and keep track of what you need to refute. And additionally, I feel like this doesn't just apply to ABNU, but the rest of the speakers that were not like the first speakers. You guys definitely need to focus on your refutations a lot more, because I feel like there just wasn't enough clash or disagreement in the debate to make it like closer than it could have been. So ABNU, I think you should definitely consider spending a bit more time on refuting what other people have to say, maybe bring up evidence or reasoning as to why like opposition isn't right. So that's one thing for you. Okay. So now on to opposition 2, which is 10. Oh yeah, for you, generally the same idea. Definitely try to address every single area, such as they mentioned like dropouts, housing. Like those are 2 points that you didn't really address. Instead, you just went to the other 2, which was poverty and reducing crime, which was good, but make sure to address every single point, so it just like ensures that the judge knows. Also, one note for all of you, not just the second speakers. If someone did not mention a point, make sure to like mention it to the judge, say that like, oh, like my opponents did not refute, or they did not mention like X point of ours, and that's why this is important, and that's just a really good strategy to win your debate. So make sure to address this. And also, if you notice that they do not address your weighing mechanism, do say that, hey, now the weighing mechanism is net benefits, and this is why we win on that weighing mechanism in particular. Just for refutations, make sure to be a lot more specific and a lot more good at flowing. Well, applies to all of you. So now on to opposition 3, Luthfa. All right, okay, so my main issue with this was that opposition 3 for you, like a lot of what you said was really clear and it was really like concise, and it did frame the entire debate in a really good way. But I do believe that you need to kind of like stray a little bit more from your opposition 2 set. I noticed that you kind of repeated some of her impact chains. So the point of the opposition 3 is, first off, to like impact it a lot more. So what I want to see you guys doing, not just Luthfa, but also to Amala, the other third speaker, is to like go deeper into the impacts, go deeper into why poverty matters, go deeper into why the specific evidence and the specific impacts for poverty, like not just, oh yeah, like the economy will be bad, go into like maybe like obesity or like healthcare, and make sure to provide evidence for that, because that's new information that the judge is like, oh my God, that's so interesting. And like, that's like why poverty matters. And that's why your impacts will matter a lot more to me if you did that instead of just kind of being more repetitive. And okay, and also another point on the repetitive thing, you don't need to fill up your time, right? Like if you don't have like anything else to say that much, just cut your speech off and try to like don't repeat yourself as much, because it kind of takes away from your credibility. And then finally, Amala, third speaker, for the proposition side, kind of same for you, try to diversify your impacts and do not reiterate. And then finally, like the refutes were pretty decent for the entire round, but what I noticed is that for your refutation for their point on hurt small businesses, you essentially said that managers would begin to charge more for their, prices, which means that they would pay employees more, and that's the concept of inflation. And obviously, if you're saying that inflation and the prices of things will increase, that does kind of buy into what the opposition's arguments are, right? Because a large part of their argument was that prices would increase, and that's why it wouldn't be enough for, to just try to keep more of their impacts or more of their points in mind when you're doing reputations. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the individual speaker points. I don't really have that much on speaker feedback, and these points are really just generalizations because this is a digital round, and it's definitely a lot harder to see your facial expressions or your body language, and that might take away from the accuracy of these speaker points. Okay, so first off, Jessica, your speaker points are 77.5. Okay, Lutfa, your points are 77. Avnu, your points are 78.5. Chen, your speaker points are 79.5. Lutfa, your points are 78, and Amal, your points are 79. Does anyone want me to repeat that, or what's up? Okay, so no repetitions. All right, okay, so I guess I will go into the reasons of why who won and why I believe they won. Okay, so ultimately, I did give this point to this debate to the proposition, and I'll kind of explain my reasoning why, and I'll explain what happens. But everyone just remember that this was actually a really close debate. As you know, I took a lot of time deliberating as to who actually won, and this is essentially what it came down to. Okay, so I feel like the first issue with the opposition side was the lack of empirical evidence of minimum wage increases. I know you did mention one in a couple in Franklin Roosevelt's time, but you have to realize that you have to have more recent evidence as to why you should win. And one of the good things about the proposition was that they brought up a lot of studies in a lot of places of why of where minimum wage did happen and what happened then. So that's really important to the debate, and that really does convince me as a judge as to why minimum wage is good. Okay. Secondly, I noticed that there were definitely more dropped points for the opposition than the proposition. I think as the opposition second and third speaker, you should definitely try to root out those points that you have not really mentioned before and really go into them. So the ones I'm thinking of is mostly dropouts, right? That was kind of the main thing that you didn't really address, along with housing, but less to that. So make sure to address every single point, or else it does flow through. I understand that your thought process is if we prove that the economy goes up enough, or that the economy will go down as a result of minimum wage, that would refute their points on housing and increasing dropouts. But you do have to realize that a lot of things are more specific than that. For example, for their increasing dropouts point, they said that 7.5 million families will increase their wages, which decreases their chance of dropping out of school and improve their school performance. That's a lot more specific than a general your refutation on the entire economy could include. So make sure to be more specific for every single point. Refute every single point's logics and evidence and reasoning, and that would just really help you win. Okay, and then finally, what I noticed was that your more inflation / small businesses points was a bit contradictory. I know Amala did contradict herself by supporting you, but it also kind of pointed out to the fact that if more inflation happened, if managers brought up their minimum, if managers increased the price of their sales, then that would give them more money to pay their employees, which means that either there would be more inflation or there would be less unemployment. And if you wanted to argue that there would be both in different areas, you would have to make that very clear to me as a judge. And those were the three main reasons why I voted for proposition. And for opposition generally, for both of you, a lot of your issues are the same. Make sure to diversify your impacts, make sure to refute everything, and make sure to focus on refutations a lot more. Because I thought if you did that, there would be a more even split for winning. Okay, does anyone have any questions or concerns about the way I judged or anything I said? Okay, all right, so I guess we can end this really soon, but I just wanted to say that it was honestly a really close round. All of you were amazing speakers, and you definitely conveyed what you needed to convey to me, and I thought that was really cool. Okay, and finally, if you do have any problems with the way I judge or anything I said, you can fill out the equity form, which is just like explaining what your complaints are, and we can discuss it after this round. All right, okay. If none of you have anything else to say, I'll stop the recording. Is that fine with everyone? Okay, let me try to do that. Stop recording.